Do you know that many people believe that Canada visa application is the most difficult compared to other countries? I've actually seen some friends and people that I know travel to other countries, and when you ask them, hey, why didn't you come to Canada? They will tell you that they tried and they got rejected many times, that they have to move to other country that wasn't even their first choice. So if Canada is your first choice and you want to come to Canada as a visitor, as a worker, or as a student, there are three things you need to consider before you submit your application. The first one is proof of fund. It doesn't matter if it's visitor, worker, or student, you need to make sure that you have the right proof of fund in your statement of account. Now, when immigration officer is looking at your proof of fund, is following the policies and the law that is being placed in front of him or her. So, for example, there is a law that says that for you to come here as an international student, you need to be able to prove that you have up to $20,000 to take care of yourself, which will cover your rent, your living expenses, your transportations, and other things. So if you cannot prove to Canadian immigration officer that you have up to $20,000 to take care of yourself, your visa will be denied. That is the first thing. So you need to, very important, you need to consider the proof of fund. You need to make sure that the money that you have is way enough to take care of yourself. In that proof of fund, you need to also show that you have enough money to pay for your school fees for at least 1 year. So if you're going to study 1 year course and it's $20,000, that means you expected to have $20,000 for your school fees and $20,000 for your living expenses. So you need to show $40,000 in your proof of fund. So please take proof of fund very serious. Now, if you're coming as a visitor, the same thing applies. You need to understand that you need to pay for hotel. If you're coming for business, you need to pay for the conference that you're coming for. You need to pay for the transportations that you need to get to where you need to do your conference. And then you need to take care of your feedings. So consider those things when you're looking at your proof of fund. The second thing that immigration officer look at that is very important is letter of intent. You can call it letter of explanation. Now, for most countries, they don't do face-to-face interview. So your letter of explanation is like your interview to the immigration officer. So you need to explain and tell the immigration officer in your letter of explanation why you're coming to Canada, when you're going to leave Canada. And also in that letter of explanation, you need to explain to immigration officer how you got the money to pay for your living expenses and to pay for your school fees. So your letter of explanation need to tell immigration officer about your proof of fund. You need to tell immigration officer what you're coming to do, how that will benefit you, and that you're going to leave Canada immediately before your visa expires. So your letter of explanation actually stands as an agreement between you and Canadian government. Now, the third thing that you need to consider is tie, relationship that you have back home, businesses that you have back home, work that you have back home that will bring you back. If immigration officer cannot prove that you have anything that will make you to come back, then they will have a doubt that when you come to Canada, you won't want to leave. So it's very important for you to prove that tie. It can be a landed properties, it can be family, it can be job, it can be business. There are so many things that you can use to prove that you will return before your visa expires. So these are very important. These three things that I mentioned: proof of fund, letter of explanations, and ties. It doesn't matter if you're applying for worker, visitor, student, you need these three things to be in order. These are three reasons mostly why many visas are being rejected. So take them very, very, very serious. Now, I mentioned the proof of fund and I mentioned the relationship or the tie, but you see the letter of explanation stand between both of these things. Because one is in the letter of explanation that you're going to explain your TARS, and you're going to explain how you got your fund. Though you need some proof, but in that letter of explanation is where you're going to explain to the officer how you made your money and how these properties will bring you back, or how these relationships that you have in your home country will bring you back. So it's very important. So very important. I've seen people, get their visa rejected because they didn't take one of these things serious. I've actually seen people submit applications without letter of explanation. Do you expect the immigration officer to know what you're thinking? No. You need to write all your thoughts in that letter of explanation. It can be 2 pages, 3 pages. You need to give them a detailed information about your visa application. When you're going to return, how you got the money, your relationships in your country that will bring you back, and you're committing to come back before your visa expires. So it's very, very important that you consider these 3 things that I mentioned. Don't take them lightly when you apply it. This is the reason most people get rejected multiple times and they end up going to other countries. Canada is approving thousands of people's visa every year, and a lot of people are coming to Canada. So if Canada happened to be the toughest when it comes to visa application, how are they approving other people? Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe, like, and share.